There we go. Oh my gosh, this is Hey guys, Crispin Powley here with GSM Outdoors, and I want to welcome you to the first ever Think Outside podcast. We've wanted to do this for a while. Not only are we all consumers of podcasts, I have countless on my playlist that I listen to on rotation, but we also, on the GSM team side of things, we wanted to have a platform where we could just kind of connect, relate, talk, be real about not only our brands, our business, but this industry and the sport that we love. So, what better way in 2025 to do that than a podcast? We're gonna stream this thing on all major streaming platforms, and I would encourage you to check back. We're going to pour a lot into this and have a lot of fun with it. So we want to welcome you to come along with us. I want to start by saying I have grown up in this industry for the most part, and I've been with GSM for the last 3 years. My name's Crispin Powley. I'm the Senior Vice President over the fishing division at GSM. And I want to take a minute and tell you a little bit about who GSM is, kind of the who, why, when, and how of how we ended up in the fishing business. GSM is headquartered in Irving, Texas. I would say, forgive me for not knowing, but I would say that we're home to probably 55-ish to 60 brands total. That's hunt, shoot, cutlery, rugged outdoors, and fishing. And, about 3 years ago, I had an opportunity to come on to the GSM team. They had a vision to get into fishing because, as you can see, maybe in the background here, a lot of hardcore anglers are also hardcore hunters and outdoorsmen and vice versa. And GSM, the leadership over there, which is just awesome people, avid outdoorsmen, just felt like that this was a great chance to connect worlds with hunt, shoot, fish, everything, all under one roof, and do it with quality brands that we just add value to. And so after much prayer, soul searching, I left a company I'd been with for 17 years and truly loved to come be part of this new venture, this new opportunity. It was a step in a new direction. And I can tell you now that 3 years later, it was an incredible decision. I work with one of the best teams in the entire industry, if not the best team. I've got these people that I work with every day that you see brands and we see our babies, right? And I'm so fortunate to have the cast around me, quite honestly, that I wouldn't want to do this without. And so about 3 years ago, I think November-ish or so of 22, 21, somewhere in there, 3 years ago, I think, I made the jump over to GSM, and they had basically told me their vision. And the initial step towards the goal that we have at GSM, which is to have a portfolio of meaningful brands, a portfolio of brands that are household names, that offer value, that perform, that are go-to products for serious anglers. The first step in making that happen was to acquire our first brand. And the first brand that we brought in-house at GSM, it just solidified everything that I knew I needed to feel and have confidence in that this was right, and it was Yamamoto baits. Growing up as a tournament angler, having fished tournaments all over the country, having fished all over the country, I knew exactly who Gary Yamamoto was. I knew everything about Yamamoto. I say everything, you know what I mean? I was very familiar with the brand, and it played a huge role in my arsenal, regardless of what company I worked for, who I was sponsored by, what have you. And it was the perfect launch pad for GSM fishing. And what I want to do now is introduce kind of the man behind the scenes, the guy that, everybody knows Gary Yamamoto's name, and that's for good reason. He's a legendary figure in our industry. He was a visionary. But I want to introduce you to a guy that is often the case. There's often one guy that nobody knows, perhaps, that is the driving force behind the success of a brand, a company. And with that, I want to introduce my good buddy, my coworker, and the brains and brawn behind the Yamamoto brand, Danny Berndt.
Hey, good morning, Crispin.
Morning, Danny. How are things in Page, Arizona this morning?
It's getting light.
Well, yeah, one of the things that Danny and I often deal with is the time zone difference. I'm in Central, and you are, what is that, Mountain?
Yeah, it's 7:14 here.
Yep. So it is. No, we're an hour apart. That's right. We're only an hour apart.
Yeah, hour now,
Okay.
and then when you guys go to daylight savings time, a couple.
That's it. That's the difference. So let me introduce you, Danny, if you don't mind. My first trip out to Page, which is where Yamamoto baits pretty much, Danny, you jump in here, correct me. You're the expert, but it's where it was born and raised. My first trip out there, I got to meet Danny, and Danny, if I'm not mistaken, as of this month, you've been at Yamamoto for 38 years.
Correct. Yes. Yep.
In 38 years, could you only imagine, folks, what Danny has seen in terms of changes in technology, bait design, just everything, the way that you built baits from 38 years ago till 2025. I've been in this industry a long time, but that's not a whole lot longer than I've been alive. So,
Danny, I had managers of each one of the departments that were born when I came to work here.
That's awesome.
I didn't used to be, but I am the oldest person working here.
Well, we are super thankful for you, your experience, really your heart and your drive for this brand. And that's what I really want to talk about today. We kind of, when we were putting this together, we kind of titled this episode 1, the first ever episode, From the Beginning. And I did, before I brought you in, Danny, I gave a little bit of background on From the Beginning of GSM Fishing. But what I thought would be the perfect first episode for our Think Outside podcast was to talk about Yamamoto, our first acquisition, our first child at GSM on the fishing side, and talk about it with you from the beginning. I'm going to start out by addressing kind of the obvious. Anytime there's change, people freak out. Period. That's life. I don't care if they change the design of your, the Tundra pickup or your Skeeter bass boat or your Yamaha, whatever that is. Anytime there's change, people are like, "Oh, it's the end of the world." And I bet you felt it. I know I have that. Oh, they changed the package. They've changed this. They've changed that. And what I want to talk to you about, let's start out here. And then we're going to make a big circle. But from the beginning till now, there's obviously going to be change. How old is the brand in totality, Danny?
It's like 1978 or so. Gary bought the campground first and moved up here from LA, and then he wanted a better bait to go fishing with, so he bought out some company, a company called Twin Tees and stuff.
Yep.
And it's like, so he started out. When I came to work here, I didn't come to work till 1987. He was still really, really small. I mean, I was the maintenance guy, and I used to have to get okay to go buy a hose bib. I mean, we were, So from there to signing off on thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, there has been quite an evolution over the ways, but
Oh yeah.
and it was just, and most of the product was going to Japan. And 90% of it was all going to Japan. There was very little here in the U.S. It wasn't until later and some other people came involved that's like, you know what, we need to diversify and get into the U.S. market. I mean, I hate saying it now, but I used to make some jokes. It's like, what you guys sell in the U.S., I sweep up off the floor. I mean, that was such a uneducated thing to say, because it's like it was such a big sleeping lion. I mean, like it just swamped us. I mean, it was so crazy. But there's been a lot of evolution. It's been one of the hardest things I've had to do is I mean, there was 5 or 6 of us running the campground and his bait company. I mean, the plastic, we always made our own plastic. So the raw materials and stuff, we used to go to LA to pick them up in 55-gallon drums and bring them back, and I'd mix it in 55-gallon drums and measure it with a yardstick. I mean, it was like from there to the technology we have now is quite crazy. But maintaining and keeping the product the same was something that I kind of introduced back in about 95, 96. And it's like, because there was, and I had a lot of disagreements, confrontation, arguments with the owner and accounting, because it was so much more expensive.
Let's just call it passion. You were passionate about what you believed in, right?
Totally. And it's like, and what we were putting out there was in the bag of bait, you might get 3 or 4 different colors of the same thing, supposed to be representing one color. And, and it just wasn't working for me. And then, I mean, it got to the point where everybody said, I want more of this shade than this shade. So there was a lot of reasons why to go, but we created quality standards that I had no idea back then. I had no clue. I just knew we needed to have something standard and stick with it. And it's like, but now that's what we're known for, is the quality of the product.
Absolutely.
And it's never changed. I mean, I've had chemists here from the places we were buying plasticizers and things to make the plastic, to ensure the product never changed. It needed the same. Very early on, I was scared because the rendering factories were changing the process, and the plasticizer we were getting was not going to be available. And so I had to work really hard when bringing chemists from them here, because to ensure that what we had was keeping the same integrity. So changing anything that went into the bait plastic was an issue, and we had to really work on maintaining the same thing. So that is the piece that I was most passionate about, and now it's one of the things that make us who we are.
Right.
The Cinco, which that's a whole other story. But anyway, it's like, so that was what it brought to the table, and that's what we've always done. I mean, there's over 20 different independent checkpoints, the QC, to maintain it all the way through, so the customer and the fisherman gets it, and they can guarantee that it's like a bag of bait is going to be the same product every time. And it was, and it is, and it still is. And that's, the part, I don't know if it's time to introduce this, but, years later, Gary's getting old. Gary wants to get out, and there's a lot of politics along with that, but it's like the company came for sale. And it's like, and then when I knew who the player was, GSM Outdoors, I did some research, and I was like the regular average fisherman. I was paranoid. I was panicky. I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, I even had thoughts. It's like, I wasn't ready to retire, but I said to myself, if this doesn't pan out, it's one of those corporate things where corporate world cutting corners to achieve what they needed to get their bottom dollar for their investors or whatever. I didn't know where it was. I didn't know it was privately owned. I thought it was out in public. But anyway, I was very concerned for the people that work here, because we're a big family, always have.
Yep.
We do barbecues and stuff like that. It was like, it's just all about the team. So I was very concerned with all that. So the first meeting, when I met with Eddie Castro, which is the president of GSM, and the players that he brought with me, I drilled them pretty hard, to find out what their plan was and stuff. And, I know I caught them off guard with a couple of questions. It's like, but I'm also known for being pretty blunt. It's like some people
No,
love it,
not
some people don't. I just call it how it is. So, and at the end of that first meeting, I changed my whole outlook. I thought, okay, because Eddie's a very family oriented guy. He's more, I've gotten personal little notes from Eddie. This guy, like you said, 55 different companies he owns. He's got a lot going on. And it's like, and to send me a little personal note and stuff, I never received any of that from the previous owner. So
well.
it was I was sold. And then meeting you when you came here, and then and I don't know if you remember, but I was drilling you pretty hard about
Oh,
what's the plan with the formula, the plastic, because you guys were talking about all these new things that you wanted to do. And I threw out a quality control book. We have a big binder that is our standards, and I threw it out on the table, the business table. I said, "You guys bought us for this reason, for the quality of this product. If it wasn't who we were, you would have looked for somebody else."
That's right.
So I want to know what the plan is for this, and that we have no plans. And you said we have no plans of changing any of that, but we're going to diversify and we're going to grow the business and we're going to come up with a lot of different things, which that'll be your cue. I'm blown away with how many different styles and products and everything that came. But it's like between Eddie and then you, I was sold. I wasn't ready to retire. I'm way past retirement time. I'm going to be 69 in March.
Well, you can't retire anytime soon, Danny, because I'm way too young to retire. But if you do, I may. So,
Yeah.
I want to touch on a couple things. You said a couple things that really resonated with me. Is we bought Yamamoto for a reason, and a part of that reason was if you're going to get into a category such as fishing tackle, I think it only makes sense to jump in there with the most premium brand that you can. And I don't think anybody would ever argue that Yamamoto's product is the most premium out there and always has been. I know that the brand has evolved from, twin T's double tail grubs to very, very Japanese direct market oriented product, very technical plastic with very specific recipes and materials and processes. And, I feel like one of the great, and it's kind of if I were to be very honest, it's kind of a hot button with me. But one of the things that I read on social media is kind of the best and worst thing on earth. But one of the things I read on there all the time is how, oh, they've changed it, they've cheapened it, they've done this, they've done that. And I've fought that fight to the point where I don't even fight it anymore. I'd like to say I'm growing up a little bit, Danny, but the fact is, I can't tell you how many times I've replied, all we did was change the back. All we did was change the package. And people are like, no, that's not true. I know for a fact that the Cinco, used to weigh this and now it weighs that, or it used to feel this way and now it feels that way. And you and I both just sit here and go, oh my gosh. Dude, I've been in your office where you've got the original Cinco right there on your desk. You still got it? I hadn't been to page
Something
in a
like
while.
that.
That's it. The very first ever prototype of the Cinco in 1996. That is all I ask is that when I know I'm not your child, but if the Lord takes you home before me, put that in your will to me. I want that. That's the coolest.
It stays with the company, bud.
Dadgummit. That was the coolest thing.
No, it's fine. You're part of the company, as far as I'm concerned.
Maybe it can reside in my office one day. But with all that being said, I'm making a joke. But the fact is, private equity, big corporate, whatever, we've got this, everybody has this preconceived notion and you did too. I did too.
Yeah.
I did my research on GSM before I left a career and a company that I love to come here the same way you did, right? And I am betting my family's livelihood on this, just like you are, and every one of your employees. And the biggest look, like I said, things change. The only constant in life is that things change.
That's the
Whether
only
it's
thing that don't change.
whether it's the package, whether it's a name, a logo, but how dumb, truly. I say this all the time, kind of in jest. Would we even be the right people for the job if we were dumb enough to go, I think one of the first things we should do is change that Cinco. Like, that'd
Yeah,
be the
yeah,
dumbest thing you could ever do, right?
yeah. I was like, we were a small company before the Cinco, and the Cinco. I mean, you'll hear Roland Martin, you'll hear Gary, you'll hear everybody out in the media how they were instrumental and everything else. It's like, you know what? In all honesty, it was lightning in the bottle. It happened to be the right formula, right salt, right everything at the right time, and freaking the right fisherman caught fish on it, and it just took off. And I mean, it hasn't gone away. And it's just without the Cinco, I don't think GSM would have looked at us because we would have been much smaller company. Hula grubs were our thing.
Yep.
We only
Yep.
had 6 or 8 products. It's like, and we were getting stagnant towards the end before GSM. We had maybe one new product, and I had this mindset everything had to fit my bagging machines. So I got so production ordinated, I forgot that the end game is for the fishermen. It's like, so when you guys came on, it's like, and we started getting us to get me to think outside the box. And it's like, well, what if we do this, this, this? It's like, and once you sold me that the Cinco and our formula that we use now was not going to change, but why not add new formulas? And like, why not? Why not have,
Well,
the way you put it was, let's have the cash cow here. And then, and you could also have all these other things too. I mean, I'm
sure.
still blown away. You all recreated my juices flowing again about what we could do. It's like, well, why can't we do that? I mean, I was just talking to the guys yesterday about one of the products you guys were working on, about, talking to the guys that actually do the tooling to make the molds, and they were saying they can't do that. And I said, I'm tired of hearing you can't do that. It's
That's
like,
right.
what you need to do is say what it would cost for us to do, and then put it in Jack's and Crispin's hands, and they can make the decision whether we can make that product or not and still make some money on it. It's like,
Yeah.
just do it. Just do it. So,
Well,
not
let me
awesome.
throw this out there. I
Yeah.
would be remiss if I didn't say this. Man, I mean, we're sitting here talking about how fun this is and how great it is and how much stuff we've launched. But I do want to say the brand didn't get where it's at today by accident. I mean, there was a lot of people in the history that poured their heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears into
Big
it.
time.
And
Big.
I think about that often. I think it would be very selfish to just sit and look at where you are today or where we are today and not really kind of pay homage to Gary and Ron and some other people that have. I don't know everybody, but I know that
Yeah.
like we inherited a pretty good situation to start with, and that didn't happen by accident. And you know, one of the things I am proud of, and one of the things that my team really prides ourselves on, is, man, we're moving, shaking. We've got 5 guys on our fishing team that are hardcore anglers, tournament anglers. We know every new product that comes out, whether it's American, Japanese, whatever, because that's our lives. It's who we are. It's in our blood. And so we're always coming up with these crazy ideas. I know there's been times where I bet you've just scratched your head and said, I don't know about this, but
Yep.
I think it would be. I think it'd be cool to know for sure, but I'm very certain that in 3 years' time, we've launched over, I want to say it's 30-ish shapes. Is that right?
Yeah, at least that. It's like, it's been pretty wild. Yeah. It's like, it's 3. I mean, just right now we're working on 5 or 6 just at the moment, and there's
Right.
5 or 6 on the table. So at least 10 a year. I mean, it's like, and before we were lucky if we came up with 1. I mean, we were
Yeah.
getting really stagnant. So, and
But
these,
hey, that's super easy to do, Danny. When you've got something, when you've got something like a Cinco that literally you could focus on building Cincos and coming out with Cinco colors and be fine. You could. I mean, that's just fact of the matter. But that's just not our game plan. That's not our MO.
right.
And
Yeah.
So let's tell. I want you to tell a story. You told me a story one time that when you came to work for Gary, you were the main. If I'm not mistaken, you were a butcher before, right?
Correct. I moved here from California. Yeah, I had my own little butcher place where it was custom. Uh, I come to your place, you raise the animal, I come to your place, dress it out there, quarter it up, put it in my uh, truck, take it back, put it in my walk-ins, and if it's pig, I did my own smoking and curing, and we dressed them out for you and packaged them and wrapped them, me and my wife, and then gave them back to you, for a fee. That's what my life was before that. But the
Right.
bottom was things were changing. And that
Sure.
was in the late '80s, and power was getting more expensive. It was too expensive. A lot of people weren't raising. So anyway, we had to move. And when I came here, it's like I had a pre-job when I moved to Page, Arizona, but that guy decided to get a divorce, and it was his company went kaput, and so I was on the street looking for work. And I ended up in a construction job. My wife landed a job working at Gary's campground, and then I went to the first party, Christmas party that they had. And back then, I used to drink back in those days. And so it's like it was free alcohol, so I went. But I liked what I heard from the owner. It's like it's just this guy's going to go somewhere. I mean, I liked what I heard in this meeting, so I actually took a dollar cut in pay from where I was working, come work for Gary, and he stuck me in the back room. I was shooting lead, making jigs for him one at a time, and then painting spinner baits and buzz baits, and then from there it just evolved. Looking out
Did you
the back.
not tell me? Did you not tell me that there was just kind of a maintenance shed or something like that at the campground, and that's what you worked out of in the
Well, I
beginning?
wouldn't even know he had an A-frame. In the A-frame, they used to live in the A-frame, and in the back room, he had turned it into this. And I was sitting in this back room and had the door open, and I'm watching his maintenance guy at the campground and just some of the silly things he was doing. And I was bored to death. I mean, I had my own business stuff, and I'm shooting this lead one at a time, and it was like painting eyeballs with Japanese, chopsticks and stuff. I mean, like I was bored to death doing that, and I just told him I watched the maintenance guy out there putting heat tapes on freaking propane lines and stuff on them. And it's like, and I told Gary, I could do that job and this job too at the same time. And I didn't even know he had a place where he made fish bait. I thought it was just a campground again. And then I went over and seen. Finally, I had an opportunity. He made me the maintenance guy and still doing the other job. And then I happened to get a chance to go over because they had a compressor issue and seeing what was going on. I was always mechanically background. So I go over to his factory and I was a little scared. I mean, I asked the people there if they'd ever had a visit from OSHA, and they were all go, "What's a OSHA?" And it's like, it was crazy. But anyway, and it just evolved. I told me, I could do that and take care of your. I mean, they were paying somebody to come take care of his compressors and stuff. I said, I could do that. Take care of your campground, still do your lead. And it just evolved from there. So I was his maintenance man, and then and it kept growing. And then when, that was the first factory. And then I built the second factory, with Gary's direction, what he wanted, and many arguments. Me and him argued a lot. I actually run the other 3 employees out of the room when we start, or because he was a passionate man too, and we,
Sure.
But anyway, I learned early on with Gary, it's just like if I didn't want to do it his way, I would just throw a suggestion out there and leave it sit on the table, and then he would think about it and come back later, and it was his, and then it was a good plan. So when it
Hey,
worked.
I understand that. Make it their idea.
Yeah, I didn't care. I just wanted it to work. So anyway, it just evolved from there. So we built that little factory, and then it just evolved from that. And then the next one, I was trying to build the one we're in now by myself. And Jerry Puckett, I used to call him Bubba, was very instrumental. One of those people you're talking about. He was kind of like my mentor. And it's like, and they wanted to build this new plan in this property here, and they wanted to know how long it was going to take me. And I was like, I was a one-man band, and I don't know. I guess I could work more hours, maybe 6 months or so. Unacceptable, and in my mind, I just kind of blew me away. It's like no, we want to make you like the general contractor, and we'll get contractors in here, and you just tell them what to do. And taking the hammer out of my hand was kind of scary. I was a little paranoid about that, but it worked. And I just check in with these guys, and I learned that that nut and bolt doesn't have to be turned exactly the way I turned it, as long as it gets tightened and it works. So when I had to learn those concepts. So anyway, and it just kept evolving from there. And it's like we had the old plant that I built and this one running at the same time, trying to keep up with Japan, which they were crazy back then. They were 18 pallet. I mean, if you can imagine a pallet of product. So there's 135 bags in a case. There's 45 cases on a pallet. And we were sending like at least 18 pallets a month to Japan. I mean, it was just lights out crazy for the U.S. market.
Sure.
And it was crazy. We couldn't keep up. But then we made some changes in the factory that some great innovation in the factory, and changed the way we were cooking the plastic and stuff without changing the product. And it was very instrumental in freeing us up. So eventually to the point where I could take care of Japan and the U.S. at the same time. And then finally we were able to shut down the old plant and just, at one time I had over 300 employees. But once we got
that's one of those examples I think of when in today's world that we would call that efficiency, right? Like you became more efficient and it enabled you to produce more good product faster. And
we took that 300 people down to 80 now, and I can outproduce. I can do 3 or 4 times the amount of product that I was doing with the 300, that was where we got efficient.
That's incredible. And I guess my point is that's another example of change where it made the brand better. But and maybe once again, I don't want to linger here too long, but if we did something like that today, it'd be the end of the world, right? Oh, they changed factories, they changed. And the fact is, as long as this brand's been around, it's been evolving from one thing to another.
And then with different suppliers and different, some things become unavailable. I even have this one purple flake. We just couldn't get it anymore. In nowhere, it wasn't available, and we had to. Well, actually, we killed the color because we couldn't get it. It's like
I know. We had one color since I've been here.
Motor oil.
That motor oil, and I mean. It is a historically staple color in soft plastics and bass fishing, and the supplier that you got, I don't know if it was the pigments or what from, but literally just can't get it. It doesn't exist anymore.
They couldn't get the components to make it anymore, and it's like so we came up with some different substitutes, but that was one of those where we had to make sure the public knew. It's like we can't do that one anymore. We've tried everything, but luckily it's only been minor things like that. Like I said, with the plastic and the formula, I couldn't believe it's like there was a period of time, I don't want to go too deep into this, but there was a period of time when Gary's son was getting older, Derek Yamamoto. And
I think I've told you. So I worked for Stratus Boats back, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s, I guess. And Derek was sponsored by Stratus when he was fishing the FLW Tour. So this whole thing kind of comes in a big circle. I knew Derek before I knew Gary. So
and so they created the Konami baits, and that was supposed to be a branch off so Derek could diversify it and he could sell it a different way than we were with different products. Well, so lawyers and everything else wanted us to tweak the plastic just a little bit so they weren't exactly the same. couldn't do it. Tried, and that's why I'm telling you this story. I've tried even with the chemist, and every time we tried to tweak it and put a little more of this, a little less of that, it wasn't our product in the end. It either wouldn't cook off right, so you could pull it out of the bait or out of the molds, or it just wasn't the same feel and everything else. So it's like we ended up, it was the same, in the end. It's like, and so that's how passionate we've been towards keeping it the same. I was so paranoid coming from 55-gallon drums to, I mean, I used to go to LA to pick up the product and stuff. So take the order to Japan, which was, wow, 3 pallets at the time, and then pick up the raw materials and bring it back. We went from that point to a tanker bringing it in. So that was a very hard evolutional deal. We had to go through a lot of things to be able to take my 55-gallon drum recipe of plastic and turn it into these big tanks, batching tanks and holding tanks, without losing the integrity of the product. And we were able to achieve it. I mean, it was a big deal. It's like, so anybody even tries to change it. That's why I kind of go like this when they think the Cinco's changed. It's like, I've lost lots of sleep trying to make sure the Cinco won't change, and it's like, and it hasn't changed. If it's changed, some supplier has made a change that we couldn't tell it from this end. So, but anyway, it's like, and just where we are today is just crazy. But like the mega floater formula that we have. I played with that years ago, but that was all. I told you the deal. At the time, Gary was trying to create something for backrack or something, some big fish. Well, by the time I put enough spears in it to make this bait was so huge, it would just sink and the fish couldn't keep up with it. So, that's a joke. But anyway, it's like, so we put this floater stuff in there, but you had to put so much of the floater in there to make it buoyant that it didn't work anyway. So, but and then now it's evolved and changed, and we were able to process it. Coming back to that was kind of one of those evolution things. 20 years later.
The fact is, I mean, everybody. I think it's the common perception is when you think of Yamamoto, you think of the Cinco formula, the Cinco plastic, but there's baits and techniques and styles and things, rigging and things of that nature that's not necessarily optimal, right? Like that, our Yamacraw. I love the Cinco formula. I love that plastic formulation and the texture and a lot of things about it. But quite honestly, when I live on Kentucky Lake, when I drag a big old football jig and I've got that big Yamacraw on the back of it, or I pitch a finesse jig around the bank, I want those claws to float, and you can't do that with the Cinco formula. It does the opposite of that.
So we had 4 craws before GSM, and none of them really sold very well at all because it was using the same formula. By switching that formula, like you're saying, that was key. And it's like the rest is history.
I mean, the thing about lures, it's, and I think every angler on here will justify their spending habits by agreeing with me, but it's not one size fits all. If it was, we'd all have a green pumpkin Cinco, a black and blue craw, or what. But there's so many reasons to have different colors, different shapes, different sizes, and different plastic formulations. And what I want to say is, with my background coming through several plastic injection operations, I am completely blown away by how well you guys have protected the secret sauce at Yamamoto. Because let's be honest, the whole world, everybody thinks they know what it is. Everybody speculates what makes it different. I've told this story 100 times. The first time I walked in there and you showed me behind the curtain, I went and sat down and I just put my head in my hands. And it was just incredible to finally, I mean, I have thrown a Cinco since it came out. I've designed baits that, in that category with competing brands back in the day. But everybody was chasing the Cinco and that action and that profile and that end product. And to finally get to put my hands on the way it was made and you explain it all to me, it's just, man, there's just so much mystique about it, and it is literally one of the coolest, most foundational or revolutionary products in my lifetime in this industry. And you know what my goal is that someday somebody says this is that as well, and it's something that we've developed since our relationship began.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and I feel like we're pushing that envelope. I do. I feel like
Yep.
we're trying some new innovative stuff, and we're, to your point, that we push the tool shop beyond their comfort zone, to try to do things they've never done before. And you
Yep.
know what?
Yep.
Our consumers demand that. Our consumers are looking for the next best thing and the next best tool, and we owe it to them to give them everything we've got to make that happen.
Look at the technology. I have some old school guys that I hang out with. You know, they're my age, and we go fishing. They go, "Well, it ain't fishing anymore. Look at all the toys they got. They know where the fish is." And it's like, you know, technology has really came a long way. So why would we not take the product that they're fishing with and do the same thing? It just makes total sense that it needed to
Yeah.
evolve. We were stagnant. We were. I mean, not picking on Gary or anything, but they kept. I mean, we had how many different versions of the Cinco is there? I mean, you know, there must be 10 of them. You know, slim, super fat. You know, they're all over. Oh, let's take a Cinco and stick a different tail on it and everything. Gary just kept going with what worked. It's like, you know, it was time to make some different products and stuff. And I'm still ecstatic about some of the products and stuff that where we're going. And I'm waiting. I'm hoping it happens. Why I'm still here. That's like another lightning in the bottle, you know,
Yeah.
like the Cinco was. Because I mean, if it happened like that, it would just happen overnight, and it'll just like boom, that's it. That one, you know, because you never know. But if you don't try, how are you supposed to know? You know, so
Oh yeah. And Danny, how many things have we tried and killed? A bunch. I
yeah,
mean, you
a
know,
whole
it's a
bunch.
great idea, but it just doesn't work the way we had in our mind. But you don't know until you go through the prototyping process.
Yep. You go out. Bottom line is you got to go out and swim it. You know, you got to
Yep.
see what it
Yeah,
does.
fish has got to eat it, right? If a
Yeah,
fish
if you
doesn't
don't,
eat it, yeah.
yeah, I
And
mean, you can.
I bet we drive you and Fred and everybody there crazy with. I know, like every day, I've got a box sitting right here beside my desk where every day I'm getting color samples, size samples, texture samples, and it'll be version 1 through 5. And you go fish them all and make notes and go, hey, for this style bait, I really like version 2. And then you take all that input back. And you know what's amazing, Danny, is, you know, we send these to our pros because they're the ultimate experts. And then we've got some people on our team that we really value their experience and know what they're looking for. And it's amazing how many times, if you send me 5 versions of a new shape in 5 different formulas, it is amazing to me how many times, if you send it to 10 people, 9 of us agree that this is the one. Like, it is amazing to me how that often that works out that way.
But if you wouldn't have offered that one, you know, we might have just missed the whole boat. Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
right.
and it's like we understand. We do. You know, it's like Fred and that Frederica Chief. You know, she's the one that I'm grooming to take over when I leave. She's another one that's very passionate about the place. It's like she's Johnny on the spot. She just jumps on it
No
and
doubt.
does what she needs to do. Yeah. It's like, the only thing that GSM is making it a little harder for us now than it was when we were a small company is we still have to hit the margins, and we have to do it a certain way to make sure that we're making it's profitable, because you have to make a profit. There were so many products that we had. Uh, I'll say GYCB was before, and uh, Yamamoto is now. Gary Yamamoto Custom Baits. It's like there were times it's like we had items that were not making any money. Period.
Yep.
So I mean, you can't stay in business and not make money. And the other thing I wanted to add to that is like everybody has always thought, I mean, I've heard it so many times online and stuff that it's like Yamamoto is gouging everybody with the price. But once you came into the factory and you actually seen how the process is, it's labor intensive to put all that salt in that product. And
It is.
that was the key reason. But so some of these other ones that are coming out are no salt and stuff like that, we had to learn over again because the colors don't look the same. You got,
Yeah.
you got 6 cups of salt in this one for a gallon of plastic, and now this one has none. The colors don't look the same. So
Right.
we need to really adjust to try to create the same colors. We had to create new standards for them. So all those new ones with no salt and floater formula and everything else, they have to have a special recipe. It can't be the same recipe. Just
Well,
to
and
achieve
the thing
color.
is, Danny, none of us work for free, right? That's life. I mean,
Yeah.
if I was going to work for free, I'd just go fishing today. And I uh, I I think that Yamamoto products are expensive, but how can I say this and it not be taken wrong? It's going to be taken wrong anyway. It doesn't matter. But if you can go buy a Ford Taurus that'll get you from point A to point B, and it'll do the job. But you can also go get you a Maserati, and it'll get you from point A to point B faster, better, nicer, you know. And that's what I think Yamamoto has been and is. It's the Maserati. It's not. We could cheapen it up, but it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't have the same performance.
No.
And I could take a Maserati and dumb it down and put a Ford Taurus motor in it, and it wouldn't be the same. So I mean, I use this term a lot when I talk to people about Yamamoto. It's unapologetically premium. Like there are so many hands that touch that product from the time that truck arrives with the plasticizer to the batching and mixing and all that stuff, bagging.
Those 20 plus checkpoints are people that I was telling you about.
Right.
So it has
That's
at
exactly
least
right.
20 different checkpoints before it ever leaves here. And you know what? They all need to feed their families and stuff. And
That's
so
exactly right.
we got to pay them to do that. So if you want that boat to stay the same, you got to pay for it. But
that's right.
I love where we're at.
None of that material, none of the wages, none of that's going down. It's all going up. And the fact is, the way of the world, different things are produced in different places. But we're having this conversation with you sitting in our factory in Arizona, USA, and it costs a lot to do business there, right? But here's the thing.
Minimum wage just went up again.
Yeah. And here's the thing about it. If we could move it and make it cheaper, I wouldn't want to, because we've got a staff there, a family there, a crew there that cares about the product. They care about the end result. They care about the brand. And that's what people don't see when they see, private equity and corporate this and corporate that each one of our brands is its own little kind of microcosm. And the Yamamoto Bates family, like you said, there will be a day I'm going to contemplate changing careers.
Yep. There's one other reason why I stayed here, besides the money and the passion for the place. It's like, took a family-oriented company. Me and some other players, we treated them all like family, their paychecks and everything else. And it was like, there was a lot of family-oriented and the corporations here. I knew where the corporation was headed and what was going on, and I knew where we were, and I helped create them. I felt an obligation. I still feel an obligation. I struggled with this one too. I need to be the liaison to make so the people here can make the change. Some of them couldn't make the change. It's just the corporate world and stuff like that and how it works just wasn't for them. And and people have to move on and do what they need to do best for them. But for the ones that are passionate about the ones that want to be here, I have the best team in the world, and I didn't want to just see you, and head out the back door. It's like, I don't know where they're taking you, but good luck, and it's like, so I've been, I've had my boss for GSM Berndt. I've had him mad at me at times, and I've had these people mad at me during this transition, but that's still my plan. And it's working well. It's like, so when I leave here, they won't even know I'm gone. Except the
Well,
old guy.
I doubt that. I doubt that seriously. But you have done a wonderful job raising a culture and a group of people who are bought in and passionate about it. So I mean, I have no doubt this brand will outlive you and I both, just based on the way the foundation's built.
That's what I was after. I was a historian for Yamamoto, and I was always worried about the legacy of this company that I helped bring to this point. And I didn't want to see it go, take off to China or someplace. It's like, it's like, so, and I don't see that now. Now my only regrets are, if I have to have regrets, that I'm not younger. And I couldn't be here. So I can't be here for the next 25 years to see where it goes. Because
I just need you to be there as long as I am, Danny. That's all.
Yeah,
look,
I'm excited about it.
I am too.
And that was another thing. I needed to get re-excited. And GSM that bought the company, I mean, there was a lot of different companies looking at, or a lot of different corporations looking at buying it. And it's like, that was another lightning in a bottle to me, that GSM bought us, and the president, and you too, the vice president of this operation. It's like, so those were other things that are key to taking it where it needs to go, to the next level. And I foreseen Gary's future, years ago, back when really I was after a cheap drink, and I see it again now. And I can see it, and I'm very excited about it. I'll be able to. I love where it's going, and I think we just need to keep it up. Just wish we could unplug what we know and plug it into the fishermen, so they could realize that it's like, no, you're gonna have to look for a different reason why you didn't catch fish. The formula's still the same.
Right. Well, I'm extremely excited, and I am very honored and thankful to be part of this brand and this team and the direction of where it's going. I know what our vision is, and so far we're kind of walking that out, and couldn't do it without you and your team there. And man, I thought it would be cool to start off our all new podcast series, episode 1, from the beginning, and talk about Yamamoto from the beginning through today. And man, I truly believe the sky's the limit. I don't think this is an old brand that's mature. I think it is a historic, legendary brand that's evolving to become just as relevant today as it's ever been. And I want to thank you. Thanks for coming on, Danny. Thanks for joining us and kicking this podcast off. For everybody out there listening, thank you for hanging out with us. Check back, keep your eyes open for future episodes. And we've got a lot on the agenda to bring to you, a lot of things to talk about. And ultimately, we're just like you. We get it because we look at it like you do. We're anglers, we're fishermen. We love what we do, and we love this space, and couldn't do it without you. So tune back into the next episode. And with that, I'm going to leave you with episode 1 of the Think Outside podcast, brought to you by Baits.com.
Thank you, Crispin.
Thanks, Danny. Oh, there we go. Oh my gosh, this is